Hello and thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of News in Depth. I'm your host, Pennipher Nyirenda. On today's program, we're looking at fire services in the country. This is against the background of fires that have destroyed property in public places that include markets. On the program, we'll be looking at what kind of equipment the country has in terms of responding to such disasters, as well as establishing modalities that are being put in place in terms of improving fire response services in public facilities. Stay tuned for what's coming up on News in Depth. As the dark smoke rose to meet the skies, it presented evidence of the death of the once flourishing businesses beneath. Fire demolished a significant portion of Lusaka's biggest trading facility, City Market, which left many in tears and still perplexed. Those affected were estimated at 4,000. Fire-related disasters leave an indelible, horrific picture in the minds of those affected. Their property and lives lost are invaluable. It is these catastrophic scenes that have made July 4th, 2017, a day never to be forgotten in Zambia's history. The City Market fire disaster is one of many that has affected Zambian public facilities. Not long after that, another market on the Copperbelt was destroyed by fire. This time, it was Kapalala Market, where property was left in ashes.
In Ndola, we do not have many industries. Our people depend entirely in trading, and most of them, they trade in this market.
This is where we get our living, and we have lost completely everything.
With some of these calamities still fresh in the minds of those directly and indirectly affected, the talking point arose on whether the country is equipped with machinery, human resource, and generally the capacity to respond to fire disasters. Alexander Daka set up Lexka Fire Equipment and Services Limited in the year 2001. He shares his perception of fire and rescue services in public places.
With this massive investment that we have in Zambia, there is need that we put fire safety really at the center of it, because investment without a protection, so it may not be viable per se, because the dangers are so prone such that the investment could easily be wiped out in a few minutes or so. So there's need that we should be able to look at it from a very serious point of view.
The Lusaka Fire Brigade, run by the Lusaka City Council, carries the main responsibility of responding to fire incidents in the city. Prior to commenting on his institution's capacity to deal with fire-related misfortunes, Chief Fire Officer Robert Seulu is bothered by the high number of people in public facilities with little or no information on preventing fires.
If people can understand some of the prevention measures, say no smoking signs, okay? You have those issues of saying use smoking bins there, where you can throw those cigarette ends. No smoking 1 hour before knocking off time. Those are preventive measures. Because if you smoke before, maybe 5 minutes ago, you are going to throw a cigarette end somewhere and the office will be on fire or the place of work will be on fire. So you must understand small things, but they make it, they cause fire to occur.
Safety expert Mark Kaunda shares similar worries. Mr. Kaunda wonders why Zambians are not changing their attitude towards fire prevention despite the many fire-related calamities witnessed in the recent past.
Zambia has witnessed an increase in fire incidences over the last years, and if we do not change our attitude and behavior towards the safety, this may continue to rise. As you have rightly said, we have witnessed fires in lodges, markets, hospitals. So it's common knowledge that a fire can occur anywhere at any time. So when it comes to public places, it's very, very important to factor in safety right from the design of the building.
But where should fire prevention start from? Mr. Kaunda has a guide on common fuels likely to ignite.
For fire to occur, three things need to meet together, and this is the fuel, oxygen, and source of ignition. Common fuels when it comes to solids include wood, paper, plastics, and such things. Then for liquids we have petrol, diesel, paraffin, cooking oil, and many other industrial chemicals. Then when it comes to gases, the examples are LPG, which is liquefied petroleum gas used in gas stoves. Then when it comes to source of ignition, this is anything that would provide heat to initiate the fire.
Major Mutemwa Mwene is the station officer at the Zambia Air Force. He explains why fire prevention is important and adds to the list of good housekeeping measures.
Good housekeeping basically means that you store all your goods according to how the fire risks are. For example, there's been fires which have been caused because in the kitchen area, some people have been storing flammable liquids like fuel. So good housekeeping entails that you store flammable materials away from areas which can cause a fire to break out.
The importance of preventing fire in public places is well outlined by the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. Here, hundreds of people converge en route to various destinations. Their safety also influences the profile of this airport facility, guided by international statutes.
Fire prevention is very important in the sense that it will protect our investment because if there is no fire prevention, it means whatever we put in as a government, as individuals, is bound to go to waste. So we have to ensure that there is fire prevention in our operations.
It is not very surprising that deliberate investment has been made towards fire prevention in the ongoing upgrade of the airport. A new fire and rescue department has been constructed with state-of-the-art components that include a crash aid wing and a 2 million litre capacity water tank, among others.
Kenneth Kaunda, we're doing several upgrades, and we've spent 360 million United States dollars on these upgrades, and one of them is the Fire and Rescue Services station. Included in that is a 2 million litre water tank, which has a pump house, and it's only for that water is specifically for the fire station. It's not going to be used for any other facilities at the airport. And on top of that, we also have a crash aid wing. So in the unfortunate event of, for example, a plane crashing, then we have Fire and Rescue Services immediately able to attend to the crashed plane and bring any injured individuals to the crash aid wing, attend to their medical needs before having them being transferred to the nearest hospital.
In the public transport sector, it is a must that buses are fitted with fire extinguishers. Some operators have complied with this requirement, while others have not. We caught up with Terry Msonda, a bus driver, and he says that he is fully aware of this requirement.
Safety that's why we're walking outside with safety standard.
The Lusaka Fire Brigade says preventing fire in public places is highly likely if residents and investors followed the prerequisites of submitting plans prior to construction.
All plans are sent to the council, then they bring them to our place. We scrutinize those plans so that we include what's supposed to be included in terms of firefighting equipment. To talk of the fire hoses, the fire extinguishers. So the plan comes there for scrutiny. Then we factor them in before the construction can start.
When you walk in old buildings like Findeco House, you even see that there is even instructions in case there is fire, emergency. But the current buildings, unfortunately, we are overlooking such basic elements. We need to have an emergency number nearby. We need to, people need to be made aware who to call in case of a fire.
But the National Union of Small-Scale Contractors Secretary General Mutale Mpepo says the local authority tends to delay the approval of plans. Worse still, the inspection of public infrastructure to check compliance is not done.
A contractor will simply follow what is on the paper. So we cannot blame a contractor. Once you give a design to the contractor, that contractor will execute the works according to what is on the paper. So who is supposed to come in now? It's the law enforcement officers. In this case, those who give the permits now for you to go and construct.
We do inspect, and those who don't comply, we don't give them certificates. You know, for you to get a certificate, which means you have complied. Yes, if you haven't complied, we won't give you the certificate until we are going to make you to write what we call a recommendation letter to you to comply, and not until you fit those things. You may not receive the certificate.
From the legislative point, government is crafting a construction policy which will dictate fire prevention and other risk reduction measures.
We are crafting the construction policy, the infrastructure policy. In that policy, all construction, all public infrastructure that will be coming up should adhere to the resilience. We are promoting now the infrastructure that are resilient to earthquakes and to fire. As you may be aware, we have witnessed a number of public infrastructure being gutted. That's why you have seen us even delaying to commence the construction of a new market, because we have agreed that we will put up a modern city market, but that which must be in compliance to the new regulation of putting up a resilience infrastructure. We have directed engineers, both in my ministry and in the Ministry of Law Government, that going forward, all public infrastructures must be able to at least meet the minimum basic requirement of making sure that they are resilient to fire and earthquakes.
The fire extinguisher is the most common fire control apparatus. Despite its common availability, concern has been raised on the few number of people who know how to use this piece of equipment.
The landlords of these public places, once they have installed the fire equipment in place, they need to train the people who are found in those places to operate these equipment. For example, it's common to find fire extinguishers in most public places, but unfortunately the people who are found in those places do not know how to use those equipment. So it is important that they are trained. Using a fire extinguisher is very, very important, very simple, and they need to ensure that these fire equipment are tested and inspected regularly.
For the members of public and the workers to help fire service, we have got fire extinguishers that are dotted all over offices to ensure that when the fire happens, they'll be able to attack that fire at its first stage. So what we do is normally to go and train the members of staff to know how to use that extinguisher, and also to take care of the extinguishers. Because in most cases you find that the extinguishers that are in the offices, people don't like them. So they will remove them where they are put and put them somewhere. So those are kind of the messages that we pass on to our members of staff to ensure that that fire equipment is taken care.
While fire prevention is imperative, a major talking point in Zambia surrounds response time by those charged with the responsibility to effectively respond to fire disasters once they occur. Sometimes, the fire brigade is also guilty of running out of water. We asked the Lusaka Fire Brigade Chief Fire Officer why this is a regular scenario.
When we run out of water, we are fighting the fire, we run to the fire hydrants. So these fire hydrants must be available in all major roads. The fire hydrants are supposed to be installed between 70 to 100 meters apart in every major road. Between 70 to 100 meters apart. But of late you find that these fire hydrants maybe have been sealed by water and solid, or They have been buried because of the expansion of the roads. So as we use these fire hydrants to draw water. When we run out of water, we are fighting the fire, we run to the fire hydrants.
The Zambia Air Force has equally encountered the challenge of accessing hydrants.
Some of the challenges which we find as a fire service is that of inadequate hydrants in the community. As we are fighting fires, we're required to go back to the water so that we can continue if the fire hasn't been put off. So with the inadequacy of hydrants, that turns out to be a very big challenge.
A fire hydrant, which is also referred to as a fire plug, is a connection point where firefighters can tap water during an active fire operation. Access and maintenance of hydrants seems to be a matter of controversy. In Lusaka, the water utility is of the view that its job is not directly linked to maintaining these hydrants because their work ends at water supply, yet the fire brigade has a conflicting view.
Our role is limited to the supply of water. And if you look at the places where the councils have planted their hydrants, we have got sufficient water most of the time. And I think that we have not had some requests from the councils in terms of us equipping their water bowsers, the firefighting equipment with water all the time. We are prepared, we are ready. That water is for sale. We sell water even to residents, those that want to buy, we call them bowsers. So we're able to sell trucks of water. The whole truck, 10,000 liters, it's just about 5,000-6,000 kwacha, or 500-600 kwacha, the whole truck of water.
The maintenance of the fire hydrants, that's why we have a problem with our colleagues from the water that Lusaka and Solid. And I think we should improve on our relationship. You know, it's like we don't collaborate well, you see.
I visited some communities around the capital city and found that some of the hydrants have either been built on or tampered with. This development is known by the fire brigade and measures are being taken to revive them.
What I've done currently, I've set up a team now at our fire station to be checking and inspecting the fire hydrants, which is headed by an assistant division fire officer. So there is a team that I've now instituted. It is going around the cities now to inspect all the fire hydrants that are in existence. They clean the pit, test them. If there is no water, they come and report. We are starting with the shopping malls to test all the fire hydrants around the shopping malls. Yes, please.
The water utility, however, says it can provide an alternative system to supplying water if the planning and coordination between their office and the fire brigade can be improved upon.
What we haven't had in the last year or so when we have had these incidents is a request from our shareholders to say, can we sit down and find a solution to these problems? That's the only thing that we haven't had. Capacity, we have got more than adequate capacity to provide water to fight fires.
Other than access to fire hydrants, the fire brigade is bothered by the difficulty in accessing certain locations when fire breaks out. This is in addition to being contacted late or emergency calls being misdirected to the police.
When they notice fire, first of all, what they do is they start fighting the fires instead of calling the fire brigade on 993. When they see that the fire has grown, it has come out of proportion, that's when they remember the fire brigade. And by so doing, the fire would have grown, you see. But people, they take time to call the fire brigade. And others, they call the police instead of calling the fire brigade itself. You must understand that our roads are congested. So you find that for you to turn out during lunchtime, for you to reach Chelsea, for you to reach China, it's a problem. And some of these mushrooming compounds and private settlements, where there are narrow roads, where there are no roads, again it becomes a problem for you to reach at the scene of business.
ZAF has also experienced difficulties in accessing certain locations.
The issue of access to the actual place which has a fire, especially in the built-up areas or compounds. You've seen the size of our fire trucks. They're quite big, and some of the roads, they do not allow our fire trucks to actually have access to those areas. Those are the main challenges we face.
As a way of reducing time taken to reach communities affected by fire in Lusaka suburbs, a decentralization program has commenced.
What the government is trying to do now is to set up what we call substations. We are going to have substation like in Charleston, it is at roof level. In Challenge, we're going to have another one. McKinney, we're going to have another one, so that we lessen on the time that we spend on reaching into this exercise.
The limited capacity of the fire brigade, not only in Lusaka, has resulted in supplementing agencies coming to their rescue. Institutions that have fire and rescue departments, like the Zambia Air Force, come in handy.
The Zambia Air Force has worked hand in hand with our counterparts, the City Fire Brigade. We have actually responded to fires around the city. Most recently, we had combined efforts with the City Fire Brigade, where we turned out at a fire at the city market. The Zambia Air Force actually responded by providing 4 fire trucks that managed to put off that fire.
The complementing role of the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport is done on strict grounds.
We normally do respond to other emergencies, but that is all dependent on our volume of traffic at the airport.
We are able to assist outside of the airport. However, we must always ensure that we have enough personnel here to be able to handle whatever emergency might occur within airport facilities and within airport properties.
Although fire services are seemingly the most required, ZAF has invested in other types of high-tech rescue equipment.
The Zambia Force has got some of the most advanced equipment in the SADC region. Our fire trucks are actually equipped with water, also equipped with foam media, and they are equipped with some of the advanced breaking-in tools.
The limited capacity of the local authority to respond to fire disasters on time is what prompted government to purchase 42 fire trucks. Vice President Inonge Wina unveiled the fire engines in Lusaka recently.
Therefore, demonstrates the efforts of my government in ensuring that this critical life-saving industry is capacitated. We will continue to empower local authorities with appropriate equipment for firemen and women to enable them discharge their duties effectively.
It is, however, the expectation of the private sector that taxation on fire and rescue equipment is revised.
There's no fire company that manufactures this fire safety equipment in Zambia. We all import these things from elsewhere. So we need also the government to look at the tax the situation as regards to the importation of the fire safety, so that the common person should be able to access these things at a lower price. Yes, please.
Much as equipment is key in the effective management of fires, trained human resource is also important in fire and rescue operations. A special advanced training facility is also expected to be set up by the Zambia Air Force.
Air Force Command has plans to introduce a advanced firefighting course at the School of Excellence, which will be located at IBEX Aviation Town, which will be located in Green Palm.
In order to see a more comprehensive approach to fire and rescue services, the private sector is calling for deliberate effort in the actualization of the fire policy, which is currently in draft form.
Where there's need for the fire policy to be effected, then if the fire policy is the one that would be able to help us as to how if effective this fire safety prevention could be taken place.
Recommendations have also been made to put in place legislation that will see fire being dealt with at the household level.
We don't have a law which compel people in our residential areas to install firefighting equipment in their homes, apart from only designated premises. We are trying to put that maybe in the future we should compare. But we can't compare someone to say, as at now, there's no law to force someone to say, you buy an extinguisher, put it in your house. No, we can advise. You cannot give an advice, you can take it up or not. People should construct the house in this way. All partition walls in the building, in any building, must reach the underside of the roof. So that if fire is within a kitchen or a bedroom, it will be contained in that room. Now what people are doing, for example, they're building big houses in Chalan. They just make a box and put a roof and a ceiling. And inside there, they leave a void, what we call a void. From the bedroom to the kitchen, it's open. And if the fire is in the kitchen, within 2 minutes, the fire will move up to the bedroom and the roof will collapse. And people say, no, fire brigade came late. Not knowing because the construction was bad. You see, people, they should know that they should construct these houses or these offices by making sure that the partition walls are built up to the underside of the roof. And this will help the house to be protected, the offices to be protected. Now what you are seeing, you can see a very big mansion, but inside they decorate with a ceiling, but inside there's a void, open, from kitchen to the bedroom.
Emphasis has also been placed on the need for members of the public to respond to fire safety guidelines in public places where signage is provided.
The signages are also all over places, like I said, the no smoking signs, exits from the offices in terms of an emergency. They needed to know where to exit. And so those are the signages that we put in place, and we call out those sensitizations and awarenesses.
The need to have an efficient fire and rescue service in any country works like insurance. It is an investment that allows risk to be covered ahead of a tragedy. The experience of traders, as was the case here at City Market, affirms the theory of prevention is better than cure. The theory is indeed more advisable considering that damage caused by fire can sometimes not be repaired, as is the case when life is lost. This is where we close this week's presentation of News in Depth, where we've been looking at fire services in the country in view of the recent fire outbreaks that the country has recorded. We do hope that you found the program informative. Do join us next week for yet another interesting News in Depth presentation. I've been your host, Pennipher Sikainda-Nyirenda. Goodbye and God bless you.